So what I did was after your post, I had a bit of a think about it, and with the advancement of the ChatGPT and all that kind of stuff, I think it's entirely possible to bypass lead distribution platforms totally if you wanted to. So I'm going to share a bit about that as a final sort of it's probably the hackiest version, but end of the day, if you're gonna if there's a half-assed solution out there, then you're probably no here or there anyway. So yeah, so you might as well just hack the whole thing if that's the direction it's going to go in. So, but anyway, let's. So today's discussion, just for everybody else, it is going to be on TCPA 101 consent. While this is very much a US-based law, it obviously applies to many other countries as well in varying degrees and forms. The theory basically is that on your form, you can't just say, hey, thanks for your details, we'll send it over to a partner. You've got to be quite specific as to who the consent has been given to. So it's been given to XYZ, solar installers, Bob Jones, mortgage refinancing or whatever. All right. And so you got to be quite specific. You can't just say, marketing partners, which is usually what happened in the US. And how do you sort of achieve this now that you've got, one lead distribution funnel or one lead gen funnel, I should say, and you're probably selling to 5 or 10 or 15 different people or 30, 40, or how many other clients you have. So how do you orchestrate that? How do you think about this? And what are the options? So that's what we'll be looking at here. So I want to look at the first option. I can shrink it. Okay, cool. This is where you've got a lead distribution platform that is gonna do bulk of the work for you. So they maintain obviously your clients, they maintain the ping tree, they maintain all that other stuff. And so the setup in this environment is going to be quite simple. I'll quickly run through this, and this is probably the simplest solution, and not much to do on the lead hook side, and no much complexity. Right, so this is where you have a decision tree. You've captured a whole bunch of details, around there, except for the phone number, name, and all that sort of stuff. You've captured all the prior information, and you use the API node. You send it over to the lead distribution platform. It comes back with the company details. And what I mean by that is it's bringing in the name, email, phone number, and all the rest of the other stuff. You map it into lead to custom fields, and then you display that onto the page. So your form will say something like, you'll be contacted by XYZ company, and that XYZ company has come from the lead distribution platform, right? And then you present the thank you page. That's the simplest and the most basic setup that you have. Now, in order to sometimes achieve this, you sometimes have to use two different nodes. So one node to send the information, you have another node to pull information back out. So that's no here or there. I'm condensing it down to one API node, but know that in practice, you may actually have two separate nodes, one to push, one to pull, and that may be how your platform works. Right. Obviously, the thing to be aware of is the latency, is how long that's going to take the lead distribution platform. So you want to make sure you test that out beforehand, because obviously the client's not going to be waiting around for too long while this is coming back. And that seems to be the big bottleneck that we will be dealing with here. So for that, we go to the next iteration of this, where we are going to be doing something very similar. We've captured a whole bunch of information. Sorry, I should have been a bit clear down here. Then you're going to go ahead and grab the name, email, phone number, and all the other stuff, and then present the thank you page, right? But you've got the details of the person you've already sold the lead to upfront. So sorry, I didn't mean to over summarize that. There is going to be a few extra steps here at the bottom as well. Right. It comes the I guess your level 2, which is you're getting a little bit more sophisticated here, at least on the setup side of things, where same thing, you're going to get a bunch of details. You're going to make an API call to your lead distribution platform. It brings back a buyer ID. Once again, it's gone through and it's found the prospective buyer, whether using Pinktree and or some simpler allocation system. It's going to bring back a buyer ID, and then you would immediately make another API call, this time to Google Sheet, Airtable, some database, and it's going to bring back the buyer details. So you only bring back the buyer ID, and then to fulfill the other requirements, such as name, email, phone number, and all the other stuff, you would make a second API call to a Google Sheet, and then it brings back the other details. and you're going to display that onto the page right here. Obviously, with the name, email, phone number, and all the other rest of the other decision tree still applies, all right? And then you're going to present them the thank you page. So this is kind of like your level 2, where you're getting some of the information from your lead distribution platform and some of it from your Google Sheet itself, right? That's your second phase. The third phase, and I'll cover this one here. This is probably the one that I will share the Google Sheet with you firstly. So here's a Google Sheet. I've done something similar in the past, maybe a few more columns, which I couldn't remember today, but something along the lines of this. So you've got a client in your specific market. So you've got, 1A through to whatever clients. You've got a daily cap, you've got a weekly cap, you've got daily how many you've delivered, and you've got a weekly how many you've delivered, right? You're pretty much building your lead distribution platform inside a Google Sheet at this point. And I'm sharing this purely because at scale, sometimes it ends up being cheaper. So what I mean by that is, let's say if you have 50 clients and you're managing quite a lot of that inside as lead distribution platforms. If they do get overly expensive for you, then this is one way to test it out to reduce the cost down. So cost being one factor, obviously the second one being 100% flexibility. You can do whatever you want with it. So if you find any kinks, any things that you can't get done, then this potentially is an option available. I don't necessarily recommend this because obviously it does require a little bit of hackiness to get it up and running. But once it's up and running, it's pretty stable, right? So yeah, a bit of work up front, not quite as simple as just setting it up inside a lead distribution platform. But I'm not too sure if anyone's ever set up a lead distribution platform, you know how much time you can end up spending on it. So anyway, I'm sharing it as a third strategy here. All right, so what's going to happen here is, as you're sending leads daily, for example, you keep incrementing this number. So let's say leads comes through, goes to client A, this number will become 11, and then it'll become 12, and it'll become 13, and so on and so forth. As soon as it reaches 20 for the day, that becomes that turns to off. Right, so I'm going to leave it on at the moment because we still haven't reached our daily cap yet or daily limit, and so it'll be on, which means I can still supply for the day. Once it reaches 20, I will update that custom field with an API call to say, yep, 20 have been delivered, therefore turn it off, right? And that goes off, which means this lead for the day will no longer be receiving any leads because they've reached their cap for the day. Right. However, they do have a weekly cap as well. So this is where I only want 20 leads a day, but I want 80 for the week, right? And so that way you want to count both. So what happens here is you would have a double count. You have a daily cap count and a weekly cap count. As soon as your daily cap is met, this goes off. You don't supply for the day. For the day, client A is done. No more leads to client A, and you would move on to B, C, D, D, or whatever it is. Now, I did want to share that there would be a match criteria. Obviously, not every client wants every lead you send generating. Let's say I've just got some dummy postcode sitting here. So above 1, 2, 3, 4, and less than 999. And I've got another client who's looking for leads in 000, but less than 0999. And whatever the criteria could be dollar value, could be a mix of whatever. You can make it as simple as complex as you want. So what would happen is you would send an API call and you would see whether this is a match or not. If it's a match, then you would go and evaluate whether daily cap is met, and then if you would go and evaluate the weekly cap, and if that has been that's true, your weekly cap is true. Your daily cap is true. Your weekly cap is true or on in this case. Then return back these details. Right. Now, I did add revenue per lead here because you could make it even a little bit more sophisticated where you'd be like, listen, I've got 25 clients, but I want to supply the guy who pays me the highest first. So you could have a criteria. I like numerical criteria because they make it much more objective. So while you may have 5 clients that match, you only want to supply to the guy who is giving you the highest revenue per lead. So this would be just a little bit of conditional logic. Technically, what's happening is lead distribution platforms are actually doing this logic for you. But with ChatGPT these days, as well as a few other tools that are available, you can very easily build this yourself if you wanted to. Not a recommendation, just a just a statement of fact that these days you can kind of do these sort of things. All right, pretty simply. So any questions on this before I move on to the next criteria here? This is where you're building. So it's Paul, just for your benefit, this is I shared 3 different ways in which you're going to do distribution. This is the kind of like the third way of doing it, where you largely have built your own kind of hacky version of it of lead distribution, and this is the criteria that's going to be. And generally speaking, if outside of doing invoicing, in fact, you could even set up automations to invoicing these days, if you wanted to. Would be how you would sort of set up something like this. Now, what would happen is at the end of each day, I just wanted to make that very, very clear. So you prioritize sale to the higher revenue per lead. That's once those are done, you no longer sell to client A for the day, and if they're done for the week, you don't sell them for the week. End of each day, so at midnight, whatever your time zone is, you would fire a webhook. So you'd have a running webhook running in Zapier, Make, whatever platform you use, where on midnight in your time zone, it would trigger an API call, basically to the Google Sheet, and it clean it all up. So it'll basically, so let's say it's midnight now, then this would go to so let's say this is what's happened for the day. That's become 20. So now you're sitting at this level, right? So you're no longer delivering for the day. At midnight, what happens is that's going to go back to 0. That'll remain as is, and your daily one becomes on again. So as soon as on midnight, you would update your fields, and then immediately as you're passing leads, client A is back in business to get their 20 leads for the day. And as you are supplying more leads, you would obviously now, once again, increment the number, 11, 12, 13, whatever it is, until they get to the daily cap, and then that goes off again. At that point for the day, again, that client is no longer going to be receiving leads for the day. Now you do a weekly process as well. So on Sunday night or wherever your week ends, whatever that definition is, at midnight you make another API call, or you trigger a call. That's a weekly call now. And for the weekly call, what would happen is you would bring that to 0. That would go to 0. That would go to 0. That would go to 0, and all of them would become on again, which means every client you've got is back in business and to receive leads for the week. So as you have 1 minute past 12, as leads come through, or whatever the criteria is, it actually starts sending leads as well. Now you could obviously have a weekend column here, so supply on weekend or not, and so on and so forth, public holidays and all sorts of stuff. So you can really pretty much build an entire thing in here if you wanted to. The reason why I wanted to share a extremely flexible way of doing this is because I'm not quite sure what type of lead distribution platform you're using and how aggressively you're using that platform versus what you're doing inside LeadsHook and so on and so forth. And so I wanted to just make sure that I give you sort of the full enchilada, and you can pick and choose the complexity that you want to set up with your distribution, right? And that basically is how that one would work. Let's just finish it off. You would come down here, you'd get the buyer details, and then you would finish off the rest of the decision tree with a thank you page. So what you've done effectively is replaced, or perhaps extensively not using the lead distribution platform. The only reason why I mentioned that may be something you will have to consider, just because you have no choice, actually, is because I have seen lead distribution platforms, without naming names, that sometimes will return back after a couple of minutes. So 5 minutes, 6 minutes, I've seen up to 10 minutes, and which is really a non-conversion level of time. No one's going to wait around for 10 minutes for the API call to come back, right? So what you would be doing there is you'd be using your lead distribution system purely for managing clients and or what is being sent to clients. You do things like your dupes and any refunds you want to give and invoicing and yada yada yada. You do that, but the actual real live management of the actual lead gen funnel is going to be left to Google Sheet, because obviously this is going to be much faster than that third-party process, if that is going to be that slow. And I have seen third-party platforms to be quite slow. So you may not have a choice but to do this.
How would you add in additional rules? Like some clients might have a filter for specific type of business loans, or you said there's
So
additional stuff for the weekends.
Okay. So if it's a weekend, you do something very similar. You have an on and off filter. So on the weekend, send it on the week, or otherwise don't. So you would have that. And then what would happen is as soon as the weekend starts, or whatever your definition of weekend is, 8 p.m. Friday or 5 p.m. Friday or whatever it is, you would just trigger an automation from something like Zapier to essentially go deliver weekend, and it will go off. So therefore, it will stop delivery. So that and the reason why I like that idea, that on and off idea, because it's very simple to manage. It's also very simple to update and to refresh. And those rules are much easier to set up. Now that's the weekend on and off button. Well, what is the other criteria you mentioned?
Let's say for business loans, a certain client can only accept a specific type of loan, say equipment finance.
Okay, right. So if that's the case, then that boils down to the DT. So what's going to happen is inside the DT itself, or the decision tree, you would have that question of whether this is a business loan, finance loan, equipment loan, whatever loan, and that would form part of the questionnaire that you would ask before you send that API call to the Google Sheet or the lead distribution system or whatever it is. So therefore, that criteria would be available. So whatever they pick, the type of loan they want or whatever it is, you would then basically have a column here for example, type of loan. So I'm just going to put that. So that's your match criteria, basically. So in your case, I would actually have, so maybe let's, I don't know, type of loan, and then you would have, I don't know, let's say equipment, right? Equipment, and let's say equipment and I don't know, inventory, for example, or whatever, right? So, so as long as they pick, so let's say this client here only wants equipment inventory loans. Excuse the spelling there. Um, and therefore, when you send the information across, it would meet the criteria. So you meet the criteria for the postcode, you would meet the criteria for loan.
Okay.
So both of those are
So you do
true.
like a find kind of rule from a get
Exactly,
response.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, so
Got it.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So this lead is in play. Then now I'm going to look at to see whether my daily cap, my weekly cap is still on, or the weekend or whatever the caps are. And as long as those are on, which means this client is currently in play. It also happens to be the one that gives us the most amount of money per lead. So therefore, he or she or it or whatever they're gonna get the lead. Once you do that, you would then go and update this to buy one, and then that's basically done. So you really can add multiple columns, or you can put everything to one column. You can just say, as long as you can find this word. So you would have a postcode you could send across. You can shove it in. So just to give you an example, you could have something like this, right? You could have something like that, greater than. You could have something like comma less than, and then you could have equipment, right? So you can just dump everything into this, and your rule would be as long as it matches, as long as it matches, one or more or whatever. But I personally, I prefer this, because that way, should in the future you have a new client and they've got a really weird postcode requirement, maybe I don't know, some weird combination of numbers, then you would easily manage that. Otherwise, you're gonna have to go and start rebuilding your whole sheet again. So for me, each a criteria put into a different column, because it's much easier to have Google Sheet, or for that matter, Airtable or whatever, look at multiple columns and go, are they all true? If they're all true, then return true. And in which case, then you would look at your weekly caps and daily caps and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, because of the kind of users we have inside Laser, some of them are very technical. Some of them have built extremely elaborate lead distribution platforms inside, just using Google Sheet or Airtable or BigQuery or one of the database type solutions that are available out there, and it works really well. So there's one guy that I know that what he does is end of the week, it calculates how many were delivered. So you'd have like a total delivered for the week, so the weekly delivered. He takes that, he updates like another sheet or another tab or another whatever with the invoice for the week, and then he triggers an automation to pick up the number of leads that were delivered for the week, multiply by the hourly rate, or sorry, the lead price, and generate the invoice inside QuickBooks. And he's managing that.
That's clever.
Yeah, so that way, essentially all the client management stuff, as far as the invoicing is concerned, all that sort of stuff is largely automated. About the only thing that he manages himself internally is where any dupes requests are coming back. Those he manually manages. And the reason why he manually manages and does not have anything automated there is he's trying to keep a very tight eye on the money. As in, I don't want to be giving refunds needlessly, giving refunds basically. So that way he manages that. So those ones have to manually come to him, and then he goes and he updates the line in the Google Sheet where he's got the lead that was transferred, and then he'll manually manage that process. So yeah, so doable. Once again, I'm not sure at what point you reach diminishing returns. If your business does not have too many cap type requirements, as in apart from weekend, then you're perfectly fine. We've got some users inside Leadsook whose clients tell them, listen, you send me 24/7. I don't really care. I don't want to cap. And so those are very easy to manage in a process like this. Obviously, if you've got lots of criteria to manage, then I'd probably say that there's going to be some point at which a lead distribution platform might be better to manage. But if latency is going to be a problem, which seems to be an issue in some platforms, then you may not have a choice, even if they can fulfill the criteria for you, as in
None of them are fulfilling the legal requirements yet. That's a problem.
Okay, so sorry, so what's this legal requirement?
The TCPA stuff, the one-to-one consent.
Okay, so you mean to say that this sort of, sorry, let me go back to the first
Your one
line.
is perfect. None of these other lead distribution platforms are doing it.
Wow. Right.
Yeah, that's
That's
why we have to go to
yeah,
do
which is
hacky
why
ways to do it.
when you first told me about it, I was like, uh-huh. I didn't realize it was a
Well,
problem.
personally, I prefer to do a GET request to the lead distribution platform, and they don't do it.
Wow.
They said we'll get back to you in sometime
Couple
the
of
next 3 to 6 years.
yeah,
I'm
exactly. Yeah.
joking, but
Yeah,
yeah.
no, well, yeah, well, you definitely don't want to be swapping out, 10 days before you really have to be compliant, because that's just going to be needless pressure. So yeah, I suppose alternative. Okay, if that's the case, then go with your Airtable and or Google Sheet option. And then as the time comes, you know what? If you want, you can always switch it over. But there will be no pressure for you to switch it over. You can switch it over at your own leisure. You can even do it, March, April, June, July, whatever. Well after all this, well after everybody's gone in and tested it for you, basically, right? Because that's the other thing, right? Is you don't want to be putting all this and it hasn't been battle tested yet. This thing, very, very simple. You can battle test this in an hour or two of just sending API calls is enough to really get this thing dialed in. Whether if it's a third-party software, then you've got a problem. You need to make sure that it's been battle tested, because that's serious money on the line.
It almost eliminates the need for having a lead distribution platform if you're doing it through this.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, cool. So I guess yeah, the thing to do would be to do something like this, a little bit of prompting on the ChatGPT side to get the script ready, just get the script done, which is going to be under that one there. App scripts is where you would update that. The Yeah, just review the techie SOS stuff, and that should have. But that was like ChatGPT 3.5 or whatever, man. So I think
Yeah,
four.
it's so easy. I asked it the question and then I asked it through it
Yeah,
with Airtable. Out of
yeah.
personal preference, would you go for Google Sheets or Airtable now?
Yeah, no, I'd go for Airtable because it's more purpose built to have unlimited lines. Google Sheets does have limits at scale, and it was never designed to act in that manner. While Airtable, I know for a fact that one of the guys we know, they do a couple of they do hundreds of thousands of leads a month, and they've got almost, I don't know, a couple of years worth of leads sitting inside their tables, and
Well,
it's no problem. Yeah, it's no problem. So I know that it
theoretically, you could pull all your leads into an Airtable as well afterwards and just
yes,
distribute based on that.
correct. You could absolutely do that. Yes. Yeah. Now I'll tell you where it's really a powerful way of using Airtable is you can actually set up like these they're almost like filters or smart rules. I don't know what the actual feature is called, where every day when the lead comes in, you have you can actually fire an automation that it's going to check and see if all the data points have come through. So let's say, for example, leads come through without a phone number or an email or whatever. You can actually trigger that into a Slack channel. And I mean, you can do that in Google Sheet as well. But it's a nice little feature, but you can also build a view with it. So then you can go and just click on the view and it'll give you, oh, here's the 7 leads that didn't have the email come through or didn't have the telephone number or had I don't know, like a swear word for their name or something or whatever. And so there are some other use cases. They end up almost acting like a nice little check and balance in an extremely flexible structure. As you would know, like in most lead distribution platforms, is when you do searches and stuff, it actually can get a little bit clunky. And so obviously something like a Google Sheet or an Airtable, is very, very easy to add filters and or even like your smart filters. So yeah, go for it. I know for a fact that there's enough users that I've worked with who've got millions of lines sitting inside Airtable.
Oh, so you could add rejections within Airtable and then put them into like a rejected feed.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, a tab for rejection, a tab for incomplete data, a tab for whatever, and you would just set those up as filters, and every day they refresh. So every 24 hours, you'd go in there and it'll say, "Oh, cool! I didn't realize yesterday we lost 7 leads because the phone number didn't come through or whatever." So it also acts as a bit of a like a QA, quality control on your entire setup, and also on your entire distribution that you're doing. So yeah, that's it's a nice little way to stay on top of stuff without going without having a client tell you, hey, this didn't come through, that didn't come through. You can actually catch that pretty early just by setting up a filter. It's almost like in your Apple Mail or whatever, you can set up a smart mailbox. It has got a bunch of criteria. So whenever a certain email comes from a certain person or a certain type of words with it or whatever, it'll actually only show up in that mailbox. So it's giving it's only a preview. It's only a preview page. It's a view actually. So it's
Yeah, so you
obviously
could do like a web app functionality within
yeah.
Airtable.
That's it. And exactly, that's what I would do. And then trigger a Slack channel message. And that one would be, dodgy leads or whatever channel you want to call it. And that channel you could subscribe like the entire team on it. So that way, even if you're offline or not available or whatever, at least they'll get notified as to what's actually happened. And then they can log in and go and actually check the Airtable and all that kind of stuff. So, or whatever platform you guys, live in, you can actually trigger that inside there.
Yeah, that's impressive, Nick.
Yeah, I know. It's
Um, so
almost like
what point where would you use BigQuery instead of
I wouldn't. I
the
wouldn't. Just from a usability standpoint, I guess. Okay, sorry. I should probably paraphrase that problem. BigQuery is really designed for traffic data, where you're gonna get like tens of millions of lines. So unless you're dealing with that level of volume, I suppose theoretically, if I was a CPA network, for example, like Jonathan and Eric that jump on the call every so often, they're on a CPA network, and so obviously they're dealing with many affiliates and many offers. They probably would be better suited to go to something like a BigQuery. But Airtable has got some pretty vast limits actually. I know that I've ever inquired. Um, Airtable row limit. Let's have a look. It's 50,000 per base. Maybe the enterprise plan has got a bit more. Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay, so it does have a bit of a limit. Okay, all right. Then 50,000. I don't know where that sits with the volume you guys are doing, 100,000. I'm building a registry on Airtable, 100,000 row limit. if you must be on the enterprise plan. Okay, so it might get very, very expensive very, very quickly. So, okay, BigQuery, sorry, I think
What's enterprise cost then?
actually that's a good question. What is the enterprise cost? It's probably going to be pricey. Yep.
Then again, some lead distribution platforms are pricey anyway.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. You're right. Oh, and you gotta call them. You gotta call them.
Of
But
course. But
still, 500,000 lines is not a lot of lines for serious lead gen.
no, it's not.
Exactly.
Not if you're
Exactly.
doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially with you guys, because you when going to multiple verticals and all that kind of stuff, and dealing with larger countries now. Um, yeah. Maybe start here and then
But
at some.
the lead distribution platforms, you're spending £1,500 plus at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
£3,000 Aussie. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's a serious chunk of change. We're pretty cheap
if
for what
this
we
is
do.
yeah, yeah.
Oh man, don't tempt me. All right.
Yeah.
Uh, my head desk is threatening me. He goes, one day I'm just gonna make it.
Pulls next email.
All right. So any questions on this? So looks like then the solution should be would be well. You know what? Considering the limits that this thing has, then I think Google Sheet might be the better option actually. Because then what you do is every couple of weeks just zero it out, as in just remove the because this does not change much because this is just a it's like only like let's say you have 30 clients, you'll only have 31 lines. This is not a bottleneck. Because all it's doing is just saying, hey, do I send this guy or not? So that's all it's doing. It's not capturing any leads.
Well,
Uh,
you could actually do that. You do after X number of lines,
just
delete the
remove.
first 50,000.
Yeah, exactly. It could be an automation. As soon as you get to 40,000, trigger just a trigger an auto delete. It could yeah, and that could oh yeah, you could actually have an automation that says that as soon as you get to 50,000 or whatever X thousand, send a webhook
Oh,
to
sorry, Nick, you don't even need anything. Sorry, because this could all be run. There wouldn't be no reason to have lines because it's just looking up this database.
Right. Exactly. It's only 30 lines. This thing's only 30 lines. The limitation is your actual leads.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Which you can say that leads to
Yeah, to BigQuery. Yeah. Leads with BigQuery, absolutely. Or some equivalent
it's
database. Oh, it could be something inside AWS if you wanted to do that. It would be some database capability that does not quite have the limit that Airtable is giving you.
yeah, you run into limitation issues with Airtable as
Correct.
it scales up.
Correct. And you will from a pure lead storage perspective. So Google Sheets still works because think about it. Let's say if you're doing 10,000 leads a month, and the limitation is 100,000 or whatever the hell the line limit is. That's a very long runway. And by that time, those old leads you could easily duplicate into another sheet. So you'd have like a January sheet and a February sheet and a March sheet and an April sheet or whatever. So you don't necessarily have to have everything stored in the one place if you didn't want to. And so then you would have your active sheet, which would have your last 6 months, and everything else would be just automatically transferred into a monthly file, and it just keeps building the sheets for you as it ages. So and therefore you have all the data still available. So yeah, that's viable even at some
We're
serious.
pulling into BigQuery after distribution now anyway. So would
Yeah,
it
but I prefer BigQuery because that data is permanent and the data is going to be there for a long time. Which means if you wanted to, you could really build a lot of like a Looker Studio or whatever, one of those sort of things over BigQuery and build all kinds of graphical tools.
that's what we've done. That's what I showed you last week.
Yeah. So if that's the case,
Sorry.
then just go to BigQuery.
I think we need to change the point at which we send the leads out, but I guess we could do it send to BigQuery and then trigger it after the BigQuery entry.
Yeah, absolutely. You can fire automations of BigQuery as well.
I like it. It's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you go to BigQuery, then that's it. You're done. I mean, that's. I mean, you won't need anything else. I mean, that thing scales to billions of lines.
Yeah, but then use this as the distribution rules
Correct.
and
Correct. Correct. Correct.
your
Correct. Correct. So you use Google Sheets for your rules, and you use BigQuery for your storage.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. No, good. This
Yep.
is the.
Yeah, I'm just thinking through.
Listen,
Yeah, that's
honestly,
good.
I was not aware that actually that this is a limitation. Actually, honestly, I was always under the impression that you just, I don't know, make an API call and it tells you
They
the
don't
buyer.
even give you some of the ones that we're talking with, they don't even give you a get request to get back.
Wow.
They said
Maybe.
it's very complicated for them. I'm like, I
Yeah.
asked ChatGPT how to do it. It's like, here's how you do it. I'm like, much easier if they did it.
Yeah, no, so I suppose the way they've set up their database on the back end, or whatever, however they've set up their back end infrastructure, means that they've got all kinds of how can I put it? Technical debt, as it's called. So it's not that easy to move. Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. But good question. Yeah. And I hope this gives you a bit more yeah, a bit more meat on the problem you're trying to solve, and hopefully gives you a bit more, especially like this stuff here. I know that sometimes people overcomplicate this part here. Yeah, almost needlessly overcomplicated, and all you need is just like an on and off button, and just numbers, which are really simple queries for even an API call to very quickly very quickly do an assessment of.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah. Cool. So
So I
any
guess you can look at by line by line, make sure there's no off or whatever you said.
sorry, what's
Yeah,
that again?
it's doable. You just need to make sure there's no off on any of the delivery statuses when you're doing the get request to this thing.
Yes. Yeah, but I suppose if there is anything off, then the off would be as a result of it meeting its criteria. So say for example, if you've already delivered 20 leads, then on you would actually turn that to off, and so therefore that would be off. Therefore, it won't distribute, it won't return back this particular client because they've reached their limit for the day. And then at midnight or whatever, you'd turn it back on. So then that lead is that client is back on as a buyer.
Yeah, then something with an inactive client when they're on pause or whatever.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, cool. Yeah, yes, absolutely. So you could actually just add another column here for that. And this would be client
Buyer status, something like
status here. It would be like, I don't know, active, or we could have on, off, so or even 0 and 1. Yeah, whichever whatever terminology suits you, you can go ahead and add that in there. All it's doing is just going to read the column and return back or on or off. Oh, well, obviously if it's on, then it's going to go and
that.
assess
Yeah,
the.
okay. So you do like something like get blah 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 client status equals on daily
Yeah, so if it's on,
daily
then
status
then
is
then,
on.
then again. Okay, so
Yep.
here's how it would be. You'd send it. You'd look to see whether the client is on or off, because obviously if it's off, then you don't send them leads anyway. So that's kind of like a yep. So that's it's on. So then it's going to look and see whether it matches the criteria, the type of loan, and the postcode. If it's yes, then it's going to look at the daily cap. It's on. Cool. I know I'm good. And then it's gonna look at the weekly cap as well. Yeah. Obviously, I don't think you can find a situation where that's gonna be on and that's gonna be off, because obviously if that goes If the weekly goes off, then that obviously is going to be off automatically, right? So that it's a logical impossibility. So you would have on, and that's it. You would send the lead across. So I think that the query would be search for the daily one, and if it's on, then look at the weekly one. But if the daily is off, then really no point looking at the weekly one because you can't send lead today anyway. And then that's it. And so that's how I would actually go about doing this. And then obviously last search would be if you find that there's 2 or more clients that met the criteria, then you would look at the revenue per lead. So I'll send it to the person who is paying you the most amount of money, or or whatever that extra criteria that you want to have.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it's actually pretty doable now. Yeah.
New feature?
I might get a request from a lead distribution platform to take this video offline.
Disable this video. You might.
Nick, I have a different question.
Yeah,
Different
sure.
subject that I'd like your expertise or your view on. It's regarding SMS automations.
Yep.
Kind of we're looking for a more suitable way. Now, in an ideal world, it'd be obviously you ask the question, have you installed yes or no? And then they go down a path. Obviously, there's companies that I've been speaking to that do this, and it's a system. But through text message, it's more difficult because I've looked at ManyChat. ManyChat doesn't work because it's got to be hooked up to Messenger. It's got to be through that Facebook. But is there the other thing they offer, the other companies, is it's called a rich media text. In essence, it's just a text message that sends you to a lander, which is a quiz, which they can send back in, which is just leads up really anyway. So I don't know why we need to do a setup cost. But the problem, and Josh, tell me if I'm wrong, the obstacle being is we can't pass the UTMs. So if they do go back in, then it's just a case of like finishing it off on the phone number, as opposed to getting them to re-enter everything again as a new lead. Is there any way around any of this? So you'd suggest?
Sorry, I'm not aware of you not being able to pass UTMs in an SMS message. Did I hear that correctly?
That's I
Yeah,
think
it's correct.
shorten link, I don't think it's possible. Like, because obviously it uses all the characters.
Okay, yeah, okay, all right, okay. So this is where you would do something like this. So let me build this out for you. All right, so and there has to be a service out there. We surely can't be the first people to ask for it. I almost get perplexed when I run into this kind of problems. Like, what do you mean no one's doing this? Okay, so basically it would be something like, so it'd sit at the CRM level, and what would happen is you would have obviously the URL that you would add into the SMS, but it would be a shortener.
Yeah,
right.
Bitly or something like that.
Yeah. So it would be just, I don't know, a handful of characters, and if I click it, it would then expand itself to domain. So it would redirect, obviously. So it would go domain.com / whatever, question mark UTM _ campaign equals 1 2 3 4 5 6, whatever it is. So what would happen is this you would send, and then when I click the link, it would go to essentially it would redirect, right? And so it would go from the CRM. I would receive the SMS on my phone. I tap the link on my SMS. It would go here, and then that would go here. And then that obviously is going to be, the ends up on the quiz page or the landing page or the whatever it is. So this is how you would want to set it up, especially with those long URLs. So this is the process to to do it. Um,
This part's fine, Nick. It's more that, so say we've already collected that front end details, so the name, email,
Yep.
all those other details.
Yep.
It wants to get it straight back to the phone node.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So if that's the case, then you would then obviously in this case your shortener would include ampersand, first name, first underscore name equals Nick, and email, equals whatever, nick@domain.com or whatever it is, and that is
How would you do that in a shortener though?
yeah. So that's what I mean. That shortener needs to be sitting in the CRM itself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's not a third party shortener.
Okay. Yep. Not a bit.ly. It's going to be
Correct.
by the
It has to
CRM
be,
itself.
it has to be something that someone like a what do you call
Yeah.
like
It can't be a static URL shortener. It needs to be a unique URL shortener.
exactly. Yeah, it's actually a Perl, right? It's a personalized URL. So it's a Perl rather than a URL shortener. The URL shortener theoretically is just taking a big URL, making it small. Here you've got a. So actually, let me do a quick search for that. Perl URL shortener.
So just to give you a bit of context, this text message is being sent from a lead distribution platform. Like, so that would that cause complications, like getting a Perl in?
No, actually, from a lead distribution platform, you mean like whatever is going to be saying? No, it's not actually. No, I don't see that as an issue at all. It's almost like you sending the email or someone's first name. It's unique. It's unique to the lead. So in this case, what you have is you've got an entire URL that's unique to the lead.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd be
Could
surprised if
we, in theory, could we send? 'Cause I don't see many of the lead distribution platforms having their own pearls.
yep.
Could we send it out on a webhook and then send that data back into the lead?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. If your CRM does not provide this, then what you can do is run an automation inside the CRM itself before it sends the SMS out. So let's say, for example, that your SMS automation starts, let's say, somewhere here. Let's do this. So let's say the SMS would start actually further down. Sorry, I should probably put this up here like so. And kind of put that sort of somewhere here, something like this. And we would do SMS automation. So that would all begin over here. And what would happen further out here is you would then make an API call or webhook or whatever it is, webhook. And so in the webhook itself, I mean, theoretically, you could just make a webhook to Leadhook and return back a bunch of details for you. The webhook would be send URL plus the params, and then return back the Perl, and then save into custom field, right? And that's the custom field is what you would add into the SMS itself. Okay. And so when I click it, it then expands out to the whole thing. In fact, you know what? Check to Greg Dixon. He had built this for postcards in the UK. Yeah, for postcards. Yeah, there was a campaign that he reached out to me one time about it. This is some time ago, but I'm assuming there's a tech out there that he did that where he would actually he was doing like postcard marketing, but the postcard, the URL on the postcard or the QR code on the postcard were all personalized. So as soon as you scanned it, it would actually redirect to like a Leadhook page with the person's details. Yeah.
Clever.
Yeah.
All right.
So that would be the main way around it. But you're right. Otherwise, yeah, I guess it does make the URL like super long, right? Let me see if there's a. Are you using GHL? What are you using?
What for the distribution?
Or yeah, as in your SMS sending out. Well, are you grabbing the data from GHL and then pushing it to an SMS gateway?
LB.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
Okay. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, let's go shortener API. Let's have a look. Ah,
I just
okay.
asked ChatGPT, you can build it out.
Yeah, that's possible as well. Except your shortener needs to be a hosted service, because obviously it's going to then therefore to take care of this part here. This part here needs to be a third party, because it's going to receive that Perl, and then it's gonna expand it out before redirecting it. So that's why. So
Theoretically, couldn't we put in a host, a
yeah,
service somewhere?
You know, I actually tell you the truth, you could just write a very simple PHP script and just sit that on your any website on the planet. Actually, yeah, you're right. That's a great question. And rather than messing around with all this crap, um, all this crap, yeah, just get a PHP script built for free. How much is this nonsense? Yeah, no, you wouldn't need anywhere near this. Yeah, I mean, that pay for
Never done it.
ChatGPT in the first month. So yeah, just ask for a PHP script. In fact, if you want to, the
I've got
Techie
it.
SOS one, I covered that, where you can build a server-side script using this. So all you would do is create a PHP script that receives a shortened URL, expands it out, and redirects it. Super simple script. Super simple script. Yeah, there you go. Solved. I'm going to turn this crap off. So that's this whole part. This whole well, not the SMS part. Or SMS, you use whatever you're going to use for SMS. But what are you going to put inside there? So what you could do. Okay, all right. Okay, so let's solve this properly.
I just sent you on Facebook, Nick.
Oh, you sent me something on Facebook? Okay, hang on. Let me just
Yep.
stop sharing. I don't want
Perfect.
to. I don't want to recording. So let's go through here. So what would happen? you would have you'd have an SMS. So let's go SMS. Actually, I'll tell you why I went here. Is because when you are sending this information to LeadByte, so in this case, so when you're sending it here, you would actually, before you make that phone call, not phone call, that API call, you would come up here and you would do something very similar. You would come over here and here you go. This is what you would do. All right, so you make an API call to your PHP script. All right, and so let's call this my PHP script. Right, so you would use the API node to come here, you come back here, and you would basically save that, save this into a custom field. So your Perl, you create a new custom field called Perl, and that Perl is then what you would do like so, right? And that's all you need to do as far as the Perl part. So when that goes from here, you're gonna SMS with that custom field as the URL. Does that make sense?
Okay, and you could kind of, if it's a custom field, you could write it as anything, like here could be the link, and you'd only use 4 letters then out of the character limit, so it would
Correct.
minimize as well.
Correct.
Brilliant.
Correct.
Yeah, click here.
Correct. And you can adjust your PHP script to make it as long or as big as or whatever you want. I guess if you really wanted to, what you could do is register just a new domain that's just like a weird set of characters. So maybe, I don't know, like a solarabcd.com or something, or solar.xyz or whatever, you know, like something quite small. So that way, when you add in your 6-7 character extension, it still ends up being a very, very nice short URL rather than having
No,
a
it'd still be a random codes call,
correct.
but it would be
Correct.
short.
Correct.
Like the
Well, no,
Bitly is short.
actually, what you could do is you could say, Nick's deal, 1, 2, 3. And so you would have 3 or 4 characters at the end that would be unique. So in case there's another Nick that pops up somewhere, and you would actually uh, um, have that. So, but that would need to be, you know what? It may need a database. You may need a database actually, yeah, because you also obviously want to store that and then redirect it. So yeah, you would send it over here. You would put it into your MySQL database. Well, not that hard. You just let the script do the work, and the script's gonna just add a line into MySQL, and then when you obviously send the traffic to it, it's gonna read what the Perl is and reverse it back out to the actual long URL. Now, that doesn't have to happen here. Let's say you haven't received all the details here, obviously, because the name, email, phone number is sitting somewhere down here. Then you would move this process further down and then just make another API call into here. Or alternatively, you'd make an API call from the lead distribution platform itself upon receiving the lead to do this update and bring that data back here. So whether you do it towards the end, after you've received all the name, email, phone number, because you would need that. So sorry, that's not the wrong place to put it. It would be sitting down here, my mistake. Alternatively, if you don't want to put it in the DT itself, for whatever reason, you could then put it, make an API call using Zapier or something from the lead. I'm not sure. Does Leadbyte allow you to make API calls just to grab third-party data?
Yeah, to an extent.
Okay,
Based
okay,
on
okay,
certain
okay,
calls.
okay. Sorry. So if that's in the too hard basket, do it at the bottom here and just make another API call to Leadbyte to update that.
I think the main use for this would be after the email node without the phone number
Correct.
node. Yeah,
Correct.
so it's still fine to go
Correct.
down that route. Okay.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Correct. So I'm sorry, my placement is wrong. That needs to
Yeah.
be sitting down here.
Okay.
Yeah, that's solved. In fact, what you could do is you could have that URL itself as being like almost like like Paul's secret offer or Paul's secret deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dash ABC. So that URL itself is enticing enough to be clicked because it's got my name on it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be used in the nurture sequence at the start and the nurture sequence at the end. The other thing was obviously we want to send out emails to those who've gone in the lead pool and then maybe not signed up with anyone. But the only way we can take them off that list is if we get that data back from the client, obviously that they became a qualified thing. Is there apart from I'm assuming a Google sheet that they can flick something that says sale, not a sale. So that's the only way.
Yeah. So what you would do there is you would actually get them to set up a webhook on their platform, whatever CRM or whatever the hell they're using, and upon the sale, to flick you a message. The other thing you would need is some rule where when they consider lead to be dead, because that would be the other trigger that there was no sale here. So while sale is good, that's the positive one. You also want to know when a sale is when they've moved on or when they've canceled, as in they will no longer be chasing this person. As far as they're concerned, this is a dead lead. Now that could be arbitrary, as in something that they've as a company policy. So we only chase for 30 days. After that, it's dead. If that's the case, then on the 30th day, as long as you know that rule, you could actually just have a trigger to update your Google Sheet yourself. That this lead was sent on the 1st of Jan, so 31st of Jan, they're all going to be marked as dead, except for the ones that have already been sold, in which case they'll be triggered as a sale.
Obviously, that you can frame that as we're optimizing your campaigns with this information. But
absolutely.
Guys.
I mean, just from a pragmatic standpoint, just from a pure, like, a campaign performance perspective, it is super important to get the data back, because obviously such a small number of people buy, and because you've got all the other information on your DT itself, which is all the name, email, phone number, the area, or all the device information we've got, plus any all the questions and answers they've given you, it really gives you a much more granular understanding, and then you can do that percentage and SOS type prompts on it to get a much better assessment of what does this segment look like that's buying versus a segment or the segment that's not buying. And that might change how you run your ads, or they might change the conversation you run in the ads.
Yeah. I think especially for things like business loans, because it's such a wide reason, an emotional kind of reason for like not wanting to lose your business, getting a loan at that same time. Solar's a little bit more, I feel, basic, like with the reasonings behind it. But business loans, it's hugely emotional because it's such a personal thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so if you've got a question inside there, what is your reason for buying, or what triggered you to want to look at business loans today? Those sort of things, they give you catalysts. And after a while, you might see a distribution of catalysts saying, oh, wow, 60% of people say this, and 30% of people say this, and 2% of people say this. And that might change your understanding of why people are getting the loans. And that may change, obviously, the advertising you do, the type of copy you write, and the emotional appeal that you share in the ad itself.
And it's a huge market, is in like solar's this kind of cap.
Geez, mate, it's a
business loans crazy big.
It's a bottomless pit. Yeah.
Cheers, Nick. Thank you for this.
No worries. No, I'm glad that that gives you guys some idea about how to go about executing this. Yeah. Yeah.
When are we doing software SOS?
I'm running out of SOSs to run on. The SOS series. All right. Hey, any more issues that you guys are facing? Any more questions that you have you want to ask?
No, I think for me, that was kind of something we've been thinking about, but I'm sure there's going to be more that come up, Nick. Don't worry. It's just not today.
Well,
I don't want to overload myself, not you.
All right, guys. Done. Done. We'll chat soon. Have a good week.